the Crazy Cross Stitch Lady. Welcome to my craft room. Thank you so much for choosing to spend time with me in my craft room today. And I just want to say I really appreciate all of the new subscribers that I've gotten. Some of you have been watching Jennifer over at Stitching in the Bluegrass, and I've gotten some subscribers from that channel. And I'm hoping that some of my subscribers have jumped over to her channel as well. And I'm excited about that. And I'm so happy that you have decided to join me on my journey as well as her. Jennifer and I have, well, first, when we decided to do a FlossTube together, we were thinking maybe we could create a separate channel just for our collaborations. And then we were thinking about it and we thought, well, both of us have established individual channels and we have things that we like to do on our own channel for different reasons. So we decided that we would keep our separate channels, and we're going to try to do a collaboration about once a month. And that's the goal anyway. And so we're going to go back and forth between our two channels. So this first one we put on my channel, and so the next one that we do, that will be put on her channel. So what I will do once she posts the video, when we get it made, I will take the link and post it into the community tab. So I'll make a little announcement and I'll put the link to the video there so that you can hop over to her channel and you can watch it there. So we're figuring this out as we go, but we had a lot of fun with our last collaboration. So if you have not checked out her channel, it is Stitching in the Bluegrass, and her name is Jennifer. Very, very sweet lady. We have a lot of fun when we have our stitching days together and we catch up on the different projects that we're doing. And what we thought was interesting is that we do very different types of stitching, which makes for a really neat combination of stuff. So she stitches more prim stitch and I do more of the modern types of stuff, even though I'm dabbling some more into the prim stitch and I want to do a sampler. And so I'm wanting to do some of those things. And she has done a little bit of the modern and, you know, she's dabbled in that too. So I think it's a neat little combination of both things because both of us appreciate both forms of stitching. So I just thought I would give you an update on that and let you know what's going on there, and that there will be more collaborations between us in the future. At least that's what our goal is anyway. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a giveaway first, and then I'm going to do a tutorial, because on my channel I like to kind of go back and forth with a tutorial and then I'll do a regular floss tube and so on, because with my stitching, the way that I stitch slowly, first of all. Plus I'm working, so I don't have a lot of time to stitch. I might get in 30, maybe 45 minutes each night if I'm doing well. So sometimes I just don't have a whole lot to show. So I like to kind of wait. So maybe once I retire, I'll be able to change things up a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, if if I do the tutorials and you've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, you've got it, then you can use it as a stitch along. I always invite you to do that. I love to use FlossTubes and some other channels as stitch alongs. I even watch Lori Holt's channel. She has a lot of quilting stuff on hers. I don't quilt. I have done quilting, but I don't regularly do quilting, but I still enjoy listening to it and watching it. So I'll just stitch while she's talking about her quilting stuff. So if you'd like to use this as a stitch along, please feel free to do that. So let me do the giveaway first, and then I'm going to change the camera angle so that you can see what's going on. And I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about today. So I decided I want to maybe not thin my stash. I have a pretty decent little pattern stash, but over the years, and maybe you feel the same way too, sometimes your tastes in stitching start to change. It kind of shifts over time. So I found that some of the types of patterns that I like to do now, especially since I know more are available, they're not quite what they were before. So I've noticed that some of the patterns or booklets in my stash, I haven't stitched them, and I probably won't. I'm not really interested. It is not that they're not pretty. I mean, they're beautiful patterns. I chose them for a reason, but I've noticed like things like I can do the fractional stitches. I've done tutorials on the fractional stitches, but I'm kind of leaning more towards patterns that have mainly whole stitches in them. Plus, I want to look into doing some black work and that kind of thing. And I'm experimenting with different fabrics and stuff. And so some of these just don't really call to me anymore. But it's nice to have stuff in your stash just in case. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We all like to have our stash, but I'm wanting to make room for patterns that I feel like I really will stitch at some point. It might wait until retirement, but I do want to stitch them. And I've got these other patterns that if I'm not going to stitch them, I would really love for someone else to have the pattern if they really like it and they can stitch it and it'll be useful to someone. So I don't want to, it's not that I'm depriving someone else because they could buy it too, but if I can give some of these away where maybe you don't have to pay for the pattern, but it's something that you really like, or maybe it's a unicorn pattern and you've been looking for it for a long time and maybe I have no idea. So maybe I can help some of you out that way. So I thought with the at least next few videos, I would like to do some giveaways if you're interested. Now, if nobody's interested in the pattern, that's fine. But I just want to do like maybe one each time and just see if anybody wants the pattern. If not, then I'll probably take them to my stitch days and sometimes we'll put freebies on the tables and people can take them. But I would like to offer these to my viewers first and see if you would like to have any of these. So anyway, the one that I am going to show you is called Antique Roses. It is a booklet. It's a rose for every letter of the alphabet. And the designer is Elizabeth Spurlock, and it's by Jeanette Cruz Designs. So here is the booklet. So let me put it up here for just a minute. Let me get the glare off of it, and I'll let you see it for just a minute. So you can see it's all kinds of flowers. And they show you on the back how you could set this up maybe as a block or a bunch of, putting them together. Or maybe if you buy one of these, you can buy some of these blankets that have cross-stitch fabric embedded in them, and you could stitch the flowers that way. But of course, there are tons of uses for them. But if you are interested in this booklet, it's not new, but I haven't used it. I have not stitched from it. It's not worn. It looks pretty new. You might see a little bit of wearing on the side, but there's not a whole lot. So it's a new booklet. They're very clear designs. You can stitch them individually, or if you want to put them together, however you want to do it. They show how you can put it together. So it's very pretty. But again, these are some, I don't think I'm going to stitch these at all. So I would like to give them to someone else. So if you are interested in this, in the comment, if you would put something about spring, something that you like about the season of spring, maybe it's your favorite season, maybe there are certain flowers that you like. So if you'll mention something about spring, please don't mention giveaway or I want that, or anything like that, because we're trying to keep spammers out. Apparently they're really becoming more active, and they're just wanting to hone in on these giveaways. And so I want actual stitchers to get these. So just mention something about spring, and if there's more than one or so, I'll put you in a drawing if I need to, and I will announce the winner at my next video, which will be in about a week and a half because we'll be on spring break and I want to talk about Mania, and it'll be a regular FlossTube. So if you'll just do that, and then I will announce the winner. I will not put the winner in the comments. I will put my email down in the description, and I will tell you my email here so that you can contact me. I will need your mailing address, whether it's a P.O. box or if you want me to send it to your work address instead of home, wherever you want me to send it. Once I get the winner announcement and announce the winner, then I'll just have you contact me that way, and then we'll get that straightened out there. So just mention something about spring, and then we'll see if somebody ends up getting this delivered to them. Okay. All right. So we're already 10 minutes in, and my tutorials, I try to keep them fairly short. So this part will be short, but what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about how to stitch on Evenweave and linen. And like I said, if stitching on linen is Tuesday afternoon for you, just if you want to use this as a stitch along or a stitch with me, not stitch along, a stitch with me, then please feel free to do that. I've noticed that a lot of the newer stitchers they're stitching on Aida, of course, and they're a little afraid, or they want to know how to stitch on these other fabrics. So I would like to give credit to my friend Kelly, who showed me how to, or guided me in the right direction on how to stitch on Evenweave as well as linen. And so I would send her pictures and check with her, is this okay? Am I doing this right? Because it seems like it's pretty straightforward, but people get nervous about it because it is a little bit different and there is a little bit of a learning curve. So we're going to talk about that. And that way, if you want to learn how to do this, there you go. All right, so I am going to change the camera angle and I will be back with you in just a minute. All right, so I have turned the camera around. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more. Please ignore my nails. My nails aren't too bad, but it's like my cuticles like to have fits with me, and then I have to trim and all of that icky stuff. So anyway, probably TMI right there, but anyway, just focus on the fabric. So anyway, I'm going to show you on Evenweave, how you stitch on Evenweave, and then how you stitch on linen. Now, typically we call all of this is technically Evenweave because you have even holes that go across like this, and you have an even warp and weft, which means you've got the threads that go across and that go down. But I'm going to show you what we call Evenweave versus what we call linen, because there is a little bit of a difference. And there are some people who say it's harder to stitch on linen. I don't find that to be the case. I will tell you what my learning curve was in doing this, but I'm going to show you that if you can stitch on this stuff, you can stitch on linen. It should not be an issue. But I will tell you what people typically have a problem with. Okay, so I'm going to show you. I made a knot in the back just for the sake of showing you. So when people talk about going over one, which is what you do with Aida, you're going like from one square over to this one. So you're just crossing over, okay? That's what you do with Aida. Now, this is a 25 count. So Evenweave and linen are higher counts because typically you would stitch over 2 squares. So I'm going to show you how to do that. On Heaven and Earth designs, since they typically are so large, they want you to take one thread, usually, or I think they may even say 2, and they want you to stitch over 1. So that makes for very tiny squares. And people do that. They get out their magnifying glasses and they do it. And some people don't even need magnifying glasses. But typically you would stitch over 2. So I've got 2 threads here. And I'm going to stitch over 2. So this is how you do it. So here's my first square. So this is my bottom left. Now, typically I would go in here. I don't know why it's keep unfocusing, but anyway. We'll see if we can keep this focused. So typically I would go in here. But when we stitch over 2 on these higher counts, you don't go in that square, you go into the next one. So I'm going to go in there and pull my fabric through. Did I do? Yeah, okay. All right, that kind of went in a little weirdly. Okay, so then I'm going to go into my bottom right, just like I do with a regular cross stitch, except if you notice here, I went from this one, I skipped this hole and went this one, so it's over 2. So when I go up to my top left corner, I'm going in this one. I'm not going to go in the one that's covered by the floss. I'm going to go in this one. Okay. So that is a cross that is over 2 squares. That's what it means. You're supposed to say threads. If you understand it better by my saying squares, I'll say squares. So let me do it one more time. So I'm going to come over here. And let me go up one, maybe. It's hard to see this through the camera. There we go. All right. So there's that, and so I'm going to go 1, 2. Okay, so there's my first leg, and then down 1, 2. So this is my second one. Okay, I'm skipping a hole. Okay, or you always skip a hole, and then I'm skipping this hole that's covered by the floss, and I'm coming to this one. And if I want to do it side by side, it is exactly the same way as you would with Ada. That bottom right corner of that one now becomes the bottom left corner of your next one. And then skip that one, go up to this one. Okay. And then skip, go down to bottom left because you're skipping. You skipped this one, and now we're going to go up here. Okay, now here's what threw me off. This is what I really had to get used to. When you're counting, everything is over 2. So instead of me going, okay, it's 3 spaces or over, so 1, 2, 3, can't do that anymore. So if it's actually 3 spaces over, I would actually have to count to myself and go, okay, skip 1. So this is the first one, skip, second square, skip, third, and my third would start here. So that's what you have to get used to, is the counting. Once you've done it a while, it starts to become a lot more automatic, excuse me, a lot more automatic about where your thread is supposed to go. That is just going to take practice. You just have to practice it. Okay, so that's even weave. All right, everything's completely even. So I'm going to put that to the side. And now I'm going to show you on a corner of this linen. And this is actually a good piece of linen, but it's probably a bad example to show you. So, because, let's see, let me see if I can find an example. I'm going to back this up just a little bit. I'm going to try to find an example of what people typically have an issue with. And this is opalescent, so that the sparkle doesn't help a lot. But if you really look, you can see, let me use my needle. There are certain parts that are a little more, it's like they're a little bigger, a little thicker. Now, sometimes you'll get linen where there will be certain areas of the thread that is pretty thick. It almost looks like you can't stitch over it. It's so thick. Now, this is pretty good. This is not bad at all. Okay, but you notice this is also evenly woven, except for, you know, when you get into like some of these thicker ones, if you get into like a patch that's like really thick, there might be 3 or 4 stitches, it's really thick, that's called a slub. And the slubs are there simply because of the way that the linen is made. It's made slightly differently than the Evenweave is. They use different materials, and you can do your research and really look into that stuff. And actually, Jean Farish knows a lot more about that than I do. She does a really good job of explaining the differences in the types of materials that are used to make these fabrics. You stitch on linen exactly the same way that you stitch on Evenweave. However, when you're stitching, and you do want to, you stitch over the slubs. You just go right ahead and stitch over them. But what will happen is it's going to make some of your stitches, like some of the X's might be a little bit smaller than some of the others. And so that's what some people have a difficult time with, is stitching over those slubs. Well, some people want to stitch on linen because it gives it a more authentic look, especially if you're doing samplers. It looks more like what would have been stitched on during that time period. Some people just like the look of it better. Me personally, I mean, I like linen, but I actually prefer the look of Evenweave better. Even on, like if I'm doing a sampler or something, I almost would prefer to do it on Evenweave. Now, I do like linen. I have this linen. I've got some other linen, and sometimes there's a time and place for that. But again, that's going to be your personal taste. So let me just show you. I'm just going to pick a block here, pick a hole. Okay, well, maybe I might. Okay, so I just picked one. Okay. And so again, on linen, and this is a 28 count. So if you stitch over 2, it would be like a 14 count Aida. So when you're stitching over 2, you have to remember that you are not going to stitch on this in this hole, but you're going to skip 1 and stitch in this one. Okay. See that? And then you'll come back down into, I can see through the camera. I'm trying to look through the camera, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so you come back down just like you did with the Evenweave. And then you're going to go in this one. I think I got the right one. Okay. So, and this is, excuse me, this X looks smaller than the other one because this is a higher count. And so it's going to be a little bit smaller. On the 25 count, that X was more like, it would be like a 12.5 Aida. Okay, so it's bigger. Here, that X is going to be the same size if you did it on 14 count Aida. But you do it over 2, which means over, you skip a hole and go to the next one. That's what you do. Do the same thing on Evenweave and linen both. And if you have slubs, like some of these, now this is excellent linen. This is probably the best I've seen, but some of these, it's a little bit bigger than maybe some other spots. But again, if you see one, like, looks like a really fat one, and you're like, can I even stitch there? Sometimes it's even hard to see the holes there because it's thick. But yeah, you stitch over the slubs, just stitch right over it. And yes, some of your X's will look like they're not even, but that is what is expected from linen. It has that look. So I just wanted to show you, well, I want to show you quickly. It's never really quickly. We're already at 11 minutes, but I do hope that this has shown you, if you have never stitched on Evenweave or linen, that you definitely can. Now, whether you like it better than Aida, that's going to be up to you. So just like Lori Holt says, you are the boss of your own quilt, and she also says you are the boss of your own cross stitch. So you are definitely the boss of your own cross stitch, and you decide that. I have seen more and more. See, people used to be, like there would be some people who would do Aida shaming for whatever reason. They would think, oh, well, you're still stitching on Aida, and I never got that because it's a legitimate fabric, just like, all these others. But I've seen more and more that everybody is pretty much stitching on everything, just whatever suits their fancy, they're stitching on it. So give it a try. I would buy maybe a small piece of fabric that's I would start with Evenweave first probably, so you don't have to deal with slubs or anything. And stitch a little bit on that, and then maybe move to linen and see if you like that. Some people go to Evenweave and linen and they don't want to go back to Aida at all. I found I like to do all three because there are certain things I think are more suited to Aida or more suited to Evenweave. So it just depends. So I kind of bounce back and forth. So I hope this video has been helpful to you, and that you will give Evenweave and linen a try. And just let me know if you decide you like it. Just put a comment in there and let me know how it works out for you. So I hope you are creative, and I hope you are very wonderfully blessed, and I will see you all later. Bye.